Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy Thursday. Happy spring. Hope the weather is very pleasant where you are. And once again, this is just some banter as Zoom lets everybody in what seems to be like one by one. Here they come. So yeah, so the webinar is, we're going to get started in about a minute. People are trickling in. We've got a lot of attendees today to this particular webinar. Seems like this geometric tolerancing is geometric dimensioning, should I say, and tolerancing is a very popular and hot topic. So welcome everybody to our webinar today. My name is Rob Romanowski. I am the Director of Sales Operations for 3HTI. Assisting me today is Jeff Gavio, our Director of Marketing. And leading our presentation and demo is going to be Zach Carson. Zach is an applications engineer and a solutions consultant with PTC. How long have you been with PTC, Zach?
About a year and a half now.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought that it was longer than that because
I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah, no, that's a good compliment because I just feel like you've helped us out quite a bit. So Zach always does a great job. So without any further ado, I'm going to let Zach start running with his presentation. If you have any questions, just put those into the chat or the question and answer box in Zoom, and we will try to answer those as we go along. So Zach, take it away, my friend.
All right. Thanks for the intro, Rob. Very kind words. So today we're going to be talking about Creo parametrics, MBD and GD&T capabilities. And really what they do is they allow new Creo users who are new to MBD and GD&T. It is sort of a newer thing that a lot of people are just starting to get involved in. And this allows you to efficiently and correctly create annotations that define your models within the 3D space. So here's a quick agenda of what we'll go through today. We'll start off with a brief PowerPoint, go through some of the first 3 bullet points here, and then we'll jump into a demonstration so that you can actually see how we do this sort of work in Creo itself. After that, we'll finish off just discussing some of the benefits that it can provide to your organizations, and we'll even answer some questions there at the end. Or I'll check periodically here as we go along, but if there's some additional at the end, then we'll make sure we cover those. So starting with some of the challenges that we see companies commonly running into, traditional 2D prints are expensive. They're a lot of work, and it's really hard to get all of the information in those 2D prints, especially in a way that's easy to read, right? A lot of people, whenever you finally get all of the information, all of the dimensions and whatnot on that document, it's really hard to actually go through it and see the information that you're trying to see, because there's just so much going on there. And it's really difficult then to transition that information and make it applied to the real world. 3D models were originally seen as the savior to those problems, but that's proved to be pretty challenging too. There's so much information that goes into these, and that makes these drawings really difficult to read at times as well, because you need to make sure every little detail is covered. There just needs to be a way to make sure that none of those details end up missed, right? You don't want to leave out critical information and not really be aware that you actually missed anything. To go along with that, there's standards that you need to follow. ASME, ISO, that are constantly changing and evolving. One more thing that you have to deal with and accommodate for that kind of just complicates the whole process. So GD&T itself is a very robust way to describe design intent of your parts and your assemblies. But again, it's complex. There's a lot to it. There's lots of symbols. There's lots of requirements that you need to follow. And that all needs to be there. It needs to be correct. It needs to be complete. You can't miss things. If it's not all there and not defining the model, then it's really not even usable. PTC's solution to these challenges is Creo parametric. It simplifies and streamlines the way that you do all of your model-based definition for all of your designs. We even have the GD&T Advisor that really walks users through the process and teaches them how to annotate and define these models properly. It's also going to identify whenever you've missed anything. So that really goes a long way for users who are just new to doing this sort of work. You want to make sure that they can do the work, but they're doing it correctly. Creo is something that makes sure that that happens. A lot of the capabilities come out in both model-based definition and detailing. So first is for basic datum features, putting in symbols that are required by various standards and have Creo check them and make sure that they're right and give you an error message if they're not right. We've also made datum target enhancements. So define the target, define the callouts, whether the text goes inside or outside. Some of this is personal preferences, some of it's standard. And a lot of the improvements in creating geometric tolerances. So we've made it faster, we've made it easier. Basically, Creo tells us when there's errors and it tells us what we need to do to fix them. Now, in regard to the detailing, a lot of the same improvements. There's been annotation enhancements. Again, this GTOL can call out that surface, but if that surface isn't there, you're going to get an error message just like you would any other feature problem. You can set up different combination states. So they now also can have appearances, whatever it really takes to define and describe what part or that part accurately and completely. That's what you're going to be able to do. There's all kinds of new text fonts, new symbol fonts. All of these are predefined. So all you need to do is basically say, I need max material condition, and Creo is going to put that in the right format, in the right character place, everything you need. Of course, if it puts it in there, you want to modify it. You're completely able to do that, to change the font, to move the actual call out around, move it to a different location, make sure that it's easily legible, those sorts of things. And again, we're keeping up with the standards. ASME, ISO, we'll watch them as they evolve and make sure that we're consistently being compliant with those. And of course, once you're done as the designer, you have to send it somewhere. So we support STEP, AP42, which is really designed to be a STEP file format that allows for all sorts of annotations. Also JT, you can view all of these in Creo View, and you can print out the combined states for downstream users if you need to. Okay. Now getting back to the GD&T side of it, we have the GD&T Advisor that really walks you through the process of dimensions and tolerances. So it guides the user. When you ask for a tolerance, it's going to say, you probably want this to be a profile of a surface, for example. There's some things that would be invalid. You know, if you pick a flat surface, you're not going to want circularity. So it's going to tell you you shouldn't pick that, right? It's not even going to be an option. So it's going to suggest really things that you probably should be using. It allows you to select other things that are still valid, but it's going to walk you through the process. And it's educating you along the way. If you see an error message, click on it, read why you got the error message, understand what the problem is, and now you can correct it and you'll know moving forward. So especially valuable if you're new to this sort of work, like I said before. You need a tool that's going to help you along the way, make sure you're not messing up as you're learning, but also teach you as you start to do this work. So you don't have to pull in multiple people and rely on them to hold your hand through the whole process. We're letting Creo do that for you. As I mentioned, the GD&T Advisor is also up to the ASME and ISO standards. So it's going to point out any problems and have that built in. So when you build your GD&T information, you know it's correct based on the standards that you're working with. Now, obviously, this is integrated into Creo Parametric. It's just another tool. We'll basically just select the icon on the toolbar and turn it on for whatever part we're working with. It's a very seamless integration. And as you're doing this, you have an advisor tree, which we have the model tree that's telling us basically all of the GD&T callouts that we've made. So you'll have the full list in the tree. You can go back, you can change any of them, just as if you were working kind of with an assembly and you have different sub-assemblies and parts, you can go back and edit those. It's the same way here with the GD&T. So just like the standard model tree. And you can use existing annotations too. If you have older ones, you can use those inside of GD&T call them out, change them around, use what's already there. You're not going to throw away information that you already have. There's just no reason to do that if you already have things there. Let's just save the time, let's save the headache and reuse what we have. And if you have to make minor tweaks, or edits, go ahead, you're free to do so. Right. So now that we've gone through that, you might have more of an idea what MBD and GD&T actually looks like in Creo, what some of the capabilities are. We'll go ahead and jump into a demonstration. So I'm just going to quickly check here. Doesn't seem like we have any questions so far. All right. So for this demonstration of MBD, GD&T, and Creo, we'll be working with this gripper link assembly is what it's called. It's part of a robot design that we have. And we're going to go ahead and set this in annotate mode. We just do it from the toolbar at the top. This is a mode that we've had for a while, but we have made it a lot easier to use. So for the first area of this, we're going to throw a GTOL on one particular surface. Now, all I need to click to do that is in the toolbar at the top, you'll see my mouse hovered over the icon geometric tolerance. I'm just going to select on that, and I'm just going to click where I want it to go, and it's going to put that right where I select. Once you do that, you can start to actually lay this thing out. So first, we'll set the characteristic. In this case, we want it to be flatness. Then we can set the tolerance, right? Pretty easy to do that as well. And then you can start to add in maybe a datum tag on there. All you have to do is the same thing we just did. Make the selection in the toolbar, click where you want it to go, and it's going to actually do the formatting for you. So you can just say what you want it to reference. If there's a particular surface like what we did here, you can format how you want that to look if you want it straight, or if you want it as an elbow, just some different options for you there depending on how you want to do that. For our second annotation, let's go to the center and show the annotation for this hole here. Okay. We'll just, again, select where we want it. It's going to put some of those annotations in there for us. We can drag and drop them. We can move them away. You'll see we also have the ability to just tell Creo to add a lot of these for us. And then if it adds it for you, you're able to go in and sort of just say, I want to delete these, I don't want these. So that's one tool that we see a lot of people use just to kind of save some time. Once that's in there, we'll go ahead and put a plus minus tolerance. Now, what you'll notice here as we're going through this is for almost everything that we do in Creo in general, and especially here with the GD&T, we're almost always working from left to right. So the toolbar is kind of going to guide you through putting in these different annotations and tolerances and whatever else you're doing. So even if you're not using the advisor, which we're not right now, working left to right is almost always going to get you there in the right fashion. If there's just things that you don't want to do in the toolbar between different options that you're selecting while you're working from left to right, then you just skip them and don't do them, right? If I want to select the characteristic and then put in the tolerance, and I don't really want to worry about adding in additional text, then I just skip right over that and then go to the next option. So something here, you can see like a symbol, right? We can add in that, something for like perpendicularity or something. It's really up to you, right? Max material condition, maybe we can throw that in there. Now, notice though, what happens if we go to put in a symbol that doesn't make sense. Creo is smart, right? And it notices that and alerts us with a pop-up. So it really does a good job making sure that we're actually working the right way. We're not just putting things in here that don't make sense. Everything is clean, everything makes sense, and that's going to cut down on a lot of your errors, some of which, at times are unintentional. You might just click on the wrong icon by accident. Well, this is going to catch those and make sure that you fix it. All right. So here we also need to add in a datum for this. Let's go ahead and just click on the witness line, and then we can label it. We can add in the references, right? We're going to go with the inside of that bore there, and now that is referencing that location. Now we're going to do one more in this particular view. we're going to do the 4 mounting holes around that center bore. So the first thing that we need to do with these is we need a diameter dimension. Now, just like before, we're going to select on it, and then we can set the plus minus tolerance after we click on it and position it in the area that we want, just to make it a little bit more visible. So we'll say plus minus. You can change the amount of digits that you want. If you want, tens, hundreds, thousands, you just quickly can make that selection, and you'll see that it applies what you have selected on and specified there on the annotation itself. Okay, so it's really easy to use, and it's doing the formatting for you on the actual dimension. Now, if you want to, another thing you can do is add in additional text. So one thing that might be useful here, since we're referring to all 4 of these bores, is to say, while we're pointing at one of them to say that this is in 4 different locations, I can just add the 4x in that dimension text, and then immediately that applies to the dimension there in the bottom. Right? Nice and easy. And now we can go ahead and throw another GTOL in there. Same as before, we'll just click to place it. We'll click the characteristic. In this case, we want it to be position. Say 0.002. Add that in. And then we can add in any additional symbols. So again, if we were to add a symbol here that didn't make sense, we are going to get the alert that this is telling us that the symbol we selected doesn't make sense. And after you do that, you can always add this in now. You can do it later on if you want to maybe add additional text. So it's not like whenever you're done creating these that it's a final thing. You can always go back and edit these or add things to them if you think that maybe you can include more information that would better describe the model. Okay. It's nice and easy there. And then the last thing here, we'll just call out these holes here so that this GTOL has surface references. And that way, if myself or anyone else were to change any one of these holes, then Creo will even tell me that there's a problem there. Again, as I've said, it's really smart, and it does a great job of alerting users of problems and keeping everything how it actually should be done. All right. So let's just do a couple more here. Now, as I said, this also works with dimensions you already have, right? So annotations you've already created. So here, I need to set the perpendicularity of this particular part, or of this particular surface. So I want to say reference A. I want to go ahead and set the value, get rid of that, and add in some additional text or edit what's already there, right? So nice and easy. We're just taking these dimensions that you already had and we're just modifying them. So that's what I mentioned. It's really a time saver where you're not going to always be starting from scratch. If you have different users who are working on this, ideally, that's probably not going to be the case. You'll probably want one person handling this for the model. But if someone has done it in the past and you're kind of picking up where they left off, or for whatever reason, it's really easy to go back and edit these. All right. And then here we can go ahead and just build this new dimension out. So basically say, I want to add a surface dimension for the distance between these outer bores. So I'll select both of these. You can see the dimension there. We'll set it to 2 decimal places. And then what happens sometimes is whenever you are putting in these dimensions, in this case, it might not have measured based on the exact criteria that we're looking for. So maybe it went from the end of one of those bores to the beginning of the next bore. Well, after you place that, you're also able to adjust them to say, I want this to go from the center of this bore to the center of the other bore, or I want it to go from the center of this bore, maybe to the outside edge of the other bore, right? There's options for you to lay that out and make sure that it's giving you the exact dimension that you're looking for. And you can add in additional text as in the form of prefixes, as suffixes. You can say in this case, this was going to be a reference dimension, so it's going to put that text in there. And that's really all that we got to do. It's really nice and easy to work with, to create new dimensions, to edit ones that you already have, and then just go ahead and update it. And whenever you're done, save it.
So Zach, a couple of questions came in.
Okay.
So one is, does the GD&T in the model show up on the drawing?
On the 2D drawing?
Yeah, some machinists want to see a drawing.
That's a good question. I actually am not sure. Does it show up? I'm not sure if it automatically does that or not. But after this, I can look that up. It probably won't be too hard to find. And then maybe, Rob, I could email you an answer and you can send it out to these guys.
The other question is, does the annotation export into a step format?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does.
And how is, there's a second part to that question that just disappeared. So next question is all the PMI semantic?
I don't know. I don't know that one either. That's another one I'll have to find out afterward and get back.
Okay.
I want to say that it is, but I'm not positive, and I don't want to give a wrong answer.
Right. So yeah, so we'll get the right answer and figure it out.
And actually, Rob, are you able to look at this chat afterward, or should I go ahead and write these down?
We can look at it afterwards. We can
look at it afterwards.
You can? Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, the
Zach,
other part,
the second part of the step format. Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other part of the step format question is, how is model intent passed between the CAD systems?
Do you know what systems?
I do not. I think what we'll do is we'll try and get some more clarification for the person asking the question, and then we can, detail that.
So I guess I can probably give an answer to that, but I'm not sure if it's going to be exactly what he's looking for or not. So whenever you save this, you can just save the MB&T as a PRT file, which we're actually going to do now. And it's associated with the original, model or PRT file of the actual assembly. So whenever you open that up in another system, I mean, you're going to have both of those within the part. So you're going to have basically a model tree for your design, and then also a feature tree that has all of these annotations and whatnot. I'm not sure if that varies from, other systems or from system to system. I don't know if there's ones that maybe don't like the format or not, but ideally that's how it would work. You would just bring it in, you would have the model tree and the feature tree both there.
Gotcha.
Okay. Any other questions? I'm looking now. I don't think that we have.
Not at this point.
Oh, we just had another one come in.
Okay. All right. Let me read that real quick.
The question is there a way to see a minimum maximum material condition of a part depending on the tolerances set on dimensions, like in an assembly, to be able to see a potential interference?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, and I apologize here, I'm not really a MBD, GD&T expert, but I think the way that I have understood that it would happen is once you've laid out the tolerances and whatnot here, if you had an interference, Creo would actually alert you. So you would get a notification that there is an interference based on the tolerances that you've set up. I think that answers the question.
Yeah, if there's any more detail that you guys want, I mean, you can type additional questions now, And if we, we can go back to you with specific answers. That's not a problem at all. So thank you for the questions, and I guess we'll let Zach get back to it.
Yeah, sorry I can't answer all of these in detail, but I'll make sure that you get
Good
an
questions.
answer after. Yeah, they are. All right, well, let's go ahead and continue this. So basically, whenever we go to save this, you can see here, we can save this as some different file types. I think the one that was actually mentioned was a step file, right? So you would have that option here if you wanted to select step. We also see a lot of times people doing an AP 242 call out. So basically saying, save the annotations, put them into a step file, and then it's really easy to just send off to whoever needs them because they can open them in various systems. Okay. All right, so now that one is saved. We've kind of gone through the basics. Now, there's tons of improvements that we've made to make it really fast to do this stuff, as you kind of got to see there. Now, if you're doing lots of GD&T, we also have a module specifically for that called the GD&T Advisor. I mentioned this prior, and this is something that's really going to help you if you're learning how to do this. Also, maybe you're just new to Creo and you just need a little guidance. You've worked with other systems in the past. Maybe you've even done this type of work. This is a tool that still is going to help you ease your transition into the system and understand how to do it in Creo. And it's teaching you along the way while it's also checking to make sure that you're just doing it right. So here, same as before, we're in the GD&T Advisor. We're basically going to be working from left to right in the toolbar. On the left, we have tolerance feature. So we'll just select the main surface. That's what we're really focusing on right now. We'll add it as a feature, and then we can start to put in our different criteria. So when I select that and click on the surface, Creo tells us there's really only a couple things that we can do with this, right? You can see a lot of these are dolled out. There's only really two that we can select. It's flatness or the profile of a surface. Now, if you notice beside flatness, you'll see a little asterisk. That means that that's what Creo is suggesting that we select here. And that, in our case, is what we're going to go ahead and click. So we're going to select flatness. And then once we make that selection, then we can go ahead and start to fill in these details. And Creo is going to build the datum feature right there for us. So it did the formatting. It put it on the model. You can still select on this and move it around. And you can see as we created that, there's a feature tree on the left-hand side that shows exactly what we created there. Okay, now we'll go through the same sort of thing here for these holes. You click on them, you can move or adjust the dimension that it puts in there. You can put in, maybe a plus minus, a tolerance. And then which callouts are we going to do? Well, there's more options for this one, as you can see, but we still have one that is being recommended to us by Creo. It's perpendicularity. However, we have the option to pick some of these other ones. There's, it looks like about 8 of them that we could select. We're just going to stick though with the suggested. After that, give it a value, set the material condition, and then we can just drag this up and away to put it into a position that we like that's a little bit more easy to see. That looks pretty good. And then once these are built out using the GD&T Advisor, they're just normal annotations. They're no different. It's just Advisor sort of makes this process a lot easier and checks it as you're going along to make sure that it's guiding you and you're actually doing everything correctly. Now, after the fact, if we want to throw something like additional text here, specify that this is being done on 8 holes, not just the one that we are referring to, then we can easily add that information. Right. So now we're going to move to the side here, and we'll start with this center hole. All we're going to do, because we're going to say that we really don't know what we're doing here, is select on that center hole and let Creo recommend to us what we should do. So we'll add a feature in, and then we can edit the dimension. So we know that we have to put in that plus minus. You can have a range that's already set there. In this case, I did. And then whenever we go to put in the characteristic, well then, again, Creo's recommending for me which one of these that I can select on. It's not ruling out the other options that might be what we want to do, but it is recommending the particular one that it thinks that we should follow. Now, maybe in this case, after we put this one in, let's say we need multiple, well, we can put multiple in as well. So now we go to put a second one of these in. You can see here, the other suggestion is parallelism. We can select on that one and follow the same sort of format. And it's going to, as we're laying out this criteria, build out that dimension for us, do the formatting for us, which we can edit and place it on the model. And it's making sure that we're doing it right. If there's something that we do incorrectly, it is going to let us know that there is something that we messed up with. All right. Now we'll do the same thing here for the hole on the opposite side. For this one, it's the same as the other. First thing we want to do is positional. Put in a plus minus, same as before. And then we just press OK, and it builds that out for us. And we just drag and drop it in the location that we want. So it really is easy to do. And let's do one more here. So for this one, we're going to go back to the first side, and we're going to do a pattern on holes around that center bore. So notice now, when I select one, what happens here? Okay, so let me go back and do it again just so that you can see. Whenever I select one, Creo looks and identifies that this particular thing that we have selected could potentially be part of a pattern. So it detects that there's a pattern that hole is associated with in this case. And it asks us, do you want to add the entire pattern to what you're trying to do? And I'm going to say yes. And then what's going to happen is as it builds this out, it's going to know that it is referring to the other 8 holes that are within the pattern that we referenced the one hole for. Okay, and you can see that there as we move this away and just make it a little bit easier to see that it put in the 8x, showing that there is 8 instances of that bore that we put the dimension on. After the fact, if we want to add in any additional information, we can do that as well. So maybe I want to say 2 places because this is happening on both sides of this piece. I just add that text in. You can format it if you want to, bold it or italics or change the font, change the position. You can do those sorts of things very easily. All right. Now, one thing to notice, if you look over in the model tree, there's an advisor tree on the bottom left, and this is what we're going to watch to make sure that we're doing everything correctly. Now, this says somewhere on this model, we have a 0 tolerance. And obviously, that's something that we cannot have. We cannot have a 0 tolerance. It's never going to be exactly the amount all the time. So what we can do is select on that, and it's going to show us where did we not put a tolerance there, which obviously is something we have to have here, in this case with the GD&T. So it's going to highlight that dimension, that annotation that we added in, and you can, right from that advisor tree, go ahead and edit it, and it is going to bring up a menu that is going to allow you to put in the information that you were initially missing. So I can go ahead, I can put the tolerance in there. In this case, it was at plus minus, and as I add it, you'll notice that it puts the tolerance in the annotation there for us in the correct position, and in the advisor tree on the bottom left-hand side, it is removing that error alert that it was providing for us before. So we know that we have fixed the problem. If people are doing this sort of work and you've done it in the past, you know that a lot of these are things that you might know that you need to do, but you might just simply forget. Forgetting a plus minus is very, very easy to do. This is a tool that's making sure that as you're going through and you're doing this work, you're not missing anything. Okay. Now notice another thing that I can do here. I can tell Creo, show and hide the constraint state, meaning basically which ones are fully constrained, which ones are partial. And this is going to give you a really good idea of where you're at with the model. So it even has a value if you look over in the bottom left, there's a constraint state legend to show you first what the colors are that are on your model. So green is fully constrained. We don't really have anything partially constrained. There is some unconstrained, but there's also an option that says constrained by surface profile in note. All right, so what that means is if we come up here and we go to edit properties, then we can actually define the general profile or constrain the general profile through a note. So I can say across this whole model, I want my tolerance to be 0.002. And now you can see that legend applies the color, and it shows you that this whole model, or the constraint that we set up, applies to this whole model, and it even puts it in the notes for us at the top of the working window right there. Okay. And of course, then whenever you are done, you still have all of the same editing capabilities. So maybe we want to change things around. We want to move certain things. Look at, if you flip this model over, then you can see here the one on the front is upside down. So we can quickly go after the fact and just flip the orientation of this thing, make it easier to view for everybody who's looking at this model. Right, just a nice little easy tweak that we can make there. And then you can edit the other things as well. If you want to go back, you want to add in additional information, you can do that. It's just really up to you. Whatever changes you want to make sure that this thing is describing the part to the best possible description that you can have. All right. So that really is model-based definition and GD&T in Creo Parametric. I have a few more points that I'd like to share that summarize the value that this can bring to your organization. But before we get into that and just finish this thing off, we'll take a look and see if there's any other questions. Okay, so does the advisor support ISO? Not sure about that one either.
Yeah, so we got to figure out if this supports the ISO 5458 of 2018 for tolerance patterns. So
I'm going to say yes with my guess. Again, I'll verify that, but we do really try and keep up with the ISO standards. So
exactly. I don't see how it wouldn't.
Yeah.
And the other question is, are there anything like default tolerances per the title block, or do all dimensions need to show their tolerance?
Are there anything like default tolerances per the title block? No, you don't have to show. No, you don't have to always show a tolerance. In our case, what happened, where we went through the example of Creo identifying that we had a 0 tolerance, that was just because Creo recognized that that's something that has to have a tolerance. You can actually override that and just say, I want to leave it as is and not include that, but it doesn't always have to be the case. Creo's not forcing you to put in any information. Okay. So let's just go ahead and jump back in the PowerPoint and we'll finish this thing off.
Excellent.
All right, so what are you going to get with Creo MBD and GD&T? Well, first, you're going to reduce scrap and rework, scrap and product failures that come about by poor communication. If you didn't define it, then someone's not going to know what it is. They might guess, but that's really never what you want. This is making sure that all of the information that everyone needs is with the model. You'll have better productivity because it's so much easier to build these from scratch and then to change these different annotations if you need to. It's a much more complete environment for your whole enterprise. With the GD&T Advisor, designers get walked through the process. So this tells them if anything is wrong or if anything is missing, and then helps them understand and actually guides them through the process of correcting whatever was wrong. So you saw that as we were in the demo. I got the alert in the advisor tree in the bottom left that something was wrong, but it wasn't just, you know, an alert that something was wrong and then didn't tell me how to fix it. It guided me through actually fixing or correcting whatever it was that I forgot or that I messed up. And then lastly, improve quality through validation. That advisor tree, like I said, tells you when something is wrong immediately before you ever try to hit the save button. It tells you what's there, what's not there, so that you know and you can learn and end up really with top quality designs and complete designs with all of the information that anybody needs. So that's all that I had planned to go through for this demonstration of Creo MBD and GD&T.
Excellent. Great job, Zach, as always.
Thanks.
As always. I'm gonna attempt to share my screen.
Okay.
How do I do this? I always. There we go. Bam. So I want to thank everybody for being on today. I also want to thank Zach for doing a great job with the overview and the demo. Regarding the questions that were submitted, we will get back to you on each one and let you know, specifically the answers to those questions. If you have any questions you think of afterwards or want some more information, you can contact us at info@3hti.com, or you can just respond to the webinar invitations that were sent out to you, because if you reply to those, they come to me. So another question. Oh, gotta thank you. You're welcome. Glad that this was super informative. And yes, this presentation will be available later. It's being recorded, and I'm going to upload the recording onto our YouTube page, and we'll send a link out to everybody by tomorrow. One other thing I want to point out is that for our customers, we offer a minimum of 2 hours of desk side coaching. So for every one license of Creo that a customer has, we provide 1 hour of desk side coaching. But if you only have one license, we'll give you 2 hours. If you have 4 licenses, we'll give you 4 hours. Basically, what we want you to do is become more proficient at using Creo, and especially specifically to how you model. People learn differently nowadays. There used to be training classes like 10 years ago. You could sign up for a Creo training class and it would take a week, and maybe you would retain 20% of what you learned. So the approach that we take is we want you to become proficient at the software with how you are using it, and not learning necessarily everything about Creo up front. That's not necessary, but only the necessary items. So if you're a client and you want some desk side coaching from us, please respond and let us know. So with that, we're going to end the webinar. And once again, I want to thank Zach and Jeff for being on today, and most importantly, our audience. So next week we're going to have an overview of Creo 9, the new release of Creo that was just released yesterday. So you'll keep an eye out for that invitation next week, and you get to learn more about Creo 9. So thanks again, everyone. Enjoy your Thursday, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.